Hey everyone, it's Wendy. Please forgive me for my voice and hopefully no coughing fits. I'm working on day 5 of this flu that has been brutal. But I wanted to take the opportunity to address the discussion board question whether I agree with the change to the 97 IDEA amendment, removing the word serious from serious emotional disturbance and limiting it to emotional disturbance. One of the first things I want to point out, not a research article, but actually the change to the IDEA, where within the article it notes that the change had no substantive or legal significance, and it was intended to strictly eliminate any negative connotation with the use of the word serious. I would say I'd have to disagree with that because, one, anytime we label or attach a label to a student, that always takes it up a notch to a serious situation or automatically labeling a child. And that goes against, I think, what a lot of us believe in, is that we look at the individual first as opposed to the disability. So I do think there was substantive change because taking away that word serious helped us out a little bit in the right direction of moving to where we are now. The two articles that I wanted to talk about that support my opinion of why we don't need the word serious emotional disturbance, and even now that we have emotional disability, which is even a little bit more friendly or less negative, you could say. The first one was from Golden Richards, and it's to label or not to label. And it's specifically talking about students in special education who are Black. And I know that our division and many divisions across the country are looking at the disproportionate representation of African American or Black students who are identified with emotional disabilities. So one of the things that was discussed in the article is how when you attach a label to a student, that can become counterproductive for that student, and then that student has more baggage, is how the authors referred to that, more baggage for them to carry. They warned or cautioned against disproportionate identification, which we are all monitored through the Department of Education in Virginia to ensure that we don't do, or if we do disproportionately identify students, then we have to correct that in our school divisions. The other thing that I thought was very interesting, and it also resonates with what I've heard in some of the other videos from this board discussion, is that in our society, when we place a label on a student, that automatically puts a student into one group of a student that has similar characteristics. So students with emotional disabilities, one student gets lumped into this whole category of students with emotional disabilities. And as we all know, every student is different. I've worked with students with emotional disabilities that are extremely withdrawn from their peer group, and everything is internal for them. And I've worked with students with emotional disabilities where all of their internal can come out in a rage or aggressive, extreme behaviors. So while they fall under the same disability category, their characteristics or their traits of their own personalities are extremely different. The other article was from Landrum and Tankersley and Kaufman, and what's special about special education for students with emotional or behavioral disorders. This one hit for me because in our county, we have teachers who are ED teachers for emotional disability, but our programming we've changed over the last 5 or 6 years to become EBS programming, emotional behavioral support, because what we have found is our students really either need the emotional support or the behavioral support, depending on how their behaviors are being exhibited. And what this article talked about was placing an emphasis on behavior, academic, and interpersonal relationships. They also talked about emotional and behavioral disorders, and that as school systems, as teachers, and the programs that we use must be research-based, and they must be put into implementation with fidelity. So it struck a chord with me because these are similar things that we do within our school system. I think there's room for growth in all of these areas, and as I think some others have stated, we really should be looking at the student first, whether we're talking with parents or staff members or as leaders when we're educating other people. Whether the label is autism or autism spectrum disorder or intellectual disability, I think if we lose touch of the person first, then we've really done a disservice to the child and the family. So I fully agree with taking away serious as a part of that amendment in 1997. I do like where we are now with emotional disability. I think until we are not a categorical state, then we're always going to have to talk through this type of issue. But again, if I could just reiterate, take into consideration the person first, I think that will help us leaps and bounds. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.